Hello and welcome to Cargo Cafe. We're so excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking about domestic transportation modes, how to pick the right mode for your strategy, and everything that goes into that. Presenting today is Riley Wiles. I'll turn the floor over, let him introduce himself, and we'll get started.
Hey everybody, how's it going? As Libby said, I'm Riley Wiles. Been at Bestway for a little over 10 years now, which is a little crazy to think. I've worked in operations side, sales side, and also the corporate side. So been able to see all the different moving parts within Bestway, which has been fun. I will give you a heads up. I am fighting about a 3-week cough. I will do my best to mute. I'm very glad this is virtual. The only person taking friendly fire will be Libby today, so you guys are okay. You're safe. Today, as Libby said, we're going to be touching on ground freight and just optimizing our strategy. Mainly, just reviewing when it's the right time for a particular mode, and then how to avoid any problems prior to pickup and while freight is in transit. Additionally, we're going to look at alternative solutions. With it being peak season, holiday season, don't want you guys getting stuck with freight that's inevitably going to be late and when there's other options out there. So we're going to dive into those other options. And on top of that, we are going to do a $50 gift card for the best question or the best peak season, holiday season story. I'm sure you guys have some wild ones out there. I know I've certainly seen some wild ones during peak and holiday season. And we're also going to do a $10 gift card for anybody who can solve my dad joke. And the dad joke is, why did the tomato turn red? If you can answer that at the end, you get a $10 gift card coming your way. All you dads out there, you should have the answer. This one's a layup. All right, let's dive into it. Ground freight options. Obviously, the two most common and known modes, LTL and truckload. We're just going to review just some gentle reminders when scheduling those modes, things to look out for. Again, this is all to avoid headaches during peak and holiday season, but we're going to be focused on truckload, LTL, and the alternatives to those. First one, LTL, very common. Anybody who's shipping a decent amount of volume, I'm sure you have gotten into the LTL world. When is it the right mode and the right time? If you have advanced planning, there is no deadline on delivery or urgency tied to it, then this is definitely the most cost-effective solution. During the peak and holiday seasons, estimated transit times, the word estimated is very much so the word to key in on. Transit times typically tend to take a little bit longer in December, so just keep an eye out on that. If you're bumping up against a deadline, I would just be very mindful of that. How to avoid problems, mitigation, prior to your pickup. Know what you're buying. Again, the word estimated. Most of the time when you get a transit time, it is going to be estimated. Many people know, but often tend to overlook the fact that the pickup day and the delivery day is not taken into consideration when you see an estimated transit time. So if you want something to deliver Monday or Tuesday next week, and you're picking up today, which is Wednesday does not count and the delivery day does not count. So if you have a 8 a.m. deadline on Tuesday, selecting a 3-day estimated could be pretty dicey. And then volume shipments in the LTL space, those move as capacity allows. I'm guessing somebody has a terrible story of a volume shipment getting stuck at a terminal for a week, if not multiple weeks on end, simply because there hasn't been space to move your product. So just keep an eye out on that prior to pickup. Also, prior to pickup, I think it's really good to look at other options that are out there. Sprinter van is a very common one. If you're looking in the 200 to 700 mile range, pulling a Sprinter van rate might not be bad. Might be a little extra, couple extra bucks, but ultimately the peace of mind knowing your freight's going to get there on time might be worth it. The other one is air freight. We're not going to dive into that today. We'll touch on it a little bit, but the stigma around air freight is that it is wildly expensive, and there are times when it is. However, if your freight fits a particular size and weight and going from particular area to particular area, then air freight can be very, very cheap, and also provide that peace of mind knowing that your freight's going to arrive on time. In transit LTL. I know that things change when you have a delivery and all of a sudden it becomes urgent or hot or expedited, or it's been delayed and it's causing problems. There is an option for reconsignment. I would not book every LTL knowing that, hey, if things go bad, I can just do a reconsignment. It does take some paperwork and man hours to make it happen. But if you have something that turns hot, you can terminate your freight at a terminal and then go in and pick it up with a Sprinter van to meet a deadline that might have popped up unexpectedly. So there are options while in transit. Just keep that in mind if something pops up. Alternatives to LTL. Talked about Sprinter van. It is the most common alternative. Every year that goes by, there's more and more capacity in the Sprinter van world. We're going to talk more about this on the next slide just because it is the most common option. Air freight, we touched on that a little bit. I mentioned if your freight fits a particular size and weight, when you're looking at LTL options, if your freight is under 200 pounds, the length of transit is 500 miles or more, and you are going in or around a major city to a major city, then I would highly recommend just seeing what air freight might cost. I think you'll be surprised if your freight meets this criteria, just what types of rates will come back, and knowing that your freight will be there the next day versus hoping that it meets an estimated transit time can provide that peace of mind during peak and holiday season. The last alternative, which I know is very weird, the alternative for a less than truckload is a truckload. But we are in some weird times when it comes to the truckload market right now. I have some hypotheticals a few slides down, but there are some lanes where the truckload rates are so low that it might be an option to pull a truckload. And I'll give an example of that here in a few slides. But if you're moving truckload or truckload, then you probably already know those lanes where the rates are low. But typically anything moving east to west is going to be cheaper than west to east. But yeah, definitely take a look at a truckload rate if you're just looking to explore any and all options if you know you have a deadline on a shipment. Sprinter van, the most common alternative for LTL. Right mode, right time. Sprinter vans can handle 4 pallet spaces or less typically. They are great for time-sensitive freight, or if you have something that is very fragile and you're worried about damages or have experienced damages, and that's the last thing you need on your plate right before Christmas, look into a Sprinter van. Mainly because once it's loaded, it's not going to be touched or handled or cross-docked or anything like that along the way. That is a point A to point B solution, and it can really help with the sensitive freight. How to avoid problems when booking Sprinter vans. Prior to pickup, many times Sprinter vans are independent contractors, and that's a great thing. We need independent contractors. However, if something breaks down, typically they don't have another driver within the company that's just down the road or anything like that. So understanding what you're booking, who you're booking with, and then how you're going to track that. Independent contractors a lot of times might not be integrated for GPS tracking. Are we just going to be doing check calls? Are we going to be getting email updates? Just know how you're going to be updated. And if you call in to find out where your freight is, how real time is that information going to be? These are all things you can figure out prior to pickup. While in transit, peak and holiday season, after hours contacts can get pretty dicey. Make sure you know a good phone number and a good email to get quick and real-time updates. The communication and monitoring, while it's in transit, the last thing you want is somebody asking you a question and waiting 2 answers for an answer, 2 hours for an answer. So while in transit, just knowing that you have the proper channels to get your real-time answers is highly important on the Sprinter van side of things. Truckload, pretty self-explanatory. Right mode, right time. If it's a large shipment and you're looking for a dedicated solution, not going to dive too far into that. As I said, very self-explanatory. However, how to avoid problems is very key. Prior to pickup, vetting. So people usually view the term vetting as just, hey, do they pass all the safety scores and truck condition scores and all that good stuff. Beyond that, you can do vetting in understanding what time your truck is going to be empty. So an example would be if you have a 2 o'clock cutoff for loading at your facility, but that truck's not empty till noon and he's 90 miles away, the chances that you're not going to have to stay late to load that truck are pretty low. So it's very fair for shippers to ask, hey, what time is my truck going to be empty? And then that way you understand where are they going to be empty, and then you can understand, hey, I have a much higher chance of success now of my truck arriving and not having to ask people to stay late. The other thing is understanding the hours of service. So that same example, your cutoff is 2 o'clock, truck is empty at noon. If that driver, was driving from 3 a.m. to make that delivery, and then he goes and picks up your freight, probably going to have to take a break. Understanding when his resets are and things like that. If you were banking on that freight delivering the next morning at 8 a.m., there's a chance it's not going to make it. We can avoid these problems by asking the right questions prior to pickup and understanding, hey, I've got this truck coming in, hours of service, his empty time, all those good things can help avoid future problems. While in transit, again, visibility. Most truckload providers, there's so many tools on the market now in terms of tracking. It used to just be tracking via cell phone. Now most people track via their ELDs, and you should, without question, be able to get real-time information as to where your truck is at all times. The communication side, many companies can provide a platform where you just log in and see that information. If you don't want to log in somewhere, or if you don't want automatic email updates, just know who you need to be contacting for that information. And then breakdown plans. We're trying to meet deadlines before Christmas, or we're trying to meet deadlines before the new year. If it's that wildly important, then I would definitely have a plan. Hey, what happens if this thing breaks down while it's in transit? Sadly, we know the most common excuse for delays is truck problems. Well, if you can get a plan in place with your provider prior to transit, then you mitigate that excuse. So large companies will usually have other drivers around, can go grab the trailer and make the delivery. If it's a small independent contractor, knowing locations along the route with warehouses to unload the freight, load it onto another truck, whatever it may be, having a good plan in place if you have a very hard cutoff is a good thing to have. Truckload alternatives. Hotshot is probably the most common. We're going to dive into this here in a second. The term hotshot makes me laugh because everybody has a different definition of what a hotshot is. We'll dive into that here in a second on the next slide. Team service, vetting practices. So we talked a little bit about vetting. when you're vetting a team service, obviously you're paying more to expedite this move. When you're vetting, getting both drivers' phone numbers is a good thing. When they are there loading at your facility, verifying that 2 drivers are sitting in that truck is a good thing. Sadly, there's a lot of fraud that goes around in truckload. One of them is people thinking a quote unquote strong solo classifies as a team truck. That is not true. That is somebody trying to get more money and mask themselves as a team service. We can vet that out just by checking when they're loading, getting multiple phone numbers, setting both up for tracking, just a lot of different things we can do to verify that you're getting what you pay for. I put on here, be realistic. Just because we can hop in our Jeep Grand Cherokees and do 80 miles an hour down the highway and make it to Atlanta in 12 hours from Kansas City does not mean that 80,000 pounds of a truck and trailer with mandatory stops and things like that, longer times to fuel up on gas. Just be realistic with your transit times and vet that out prior to transit. Hey, I can do this in 12 hours. What are you looking at? Truck's probably going to be in the 18 to 20 hour range, but if you know that, you can plan accordingly. I also put on here flatbed specific. So a lot of people love Conestogas. What's not to love about a Conestoga? They're awesome. You really limit your capacity when you just demand a Conestoga. If your freight is able to have a tarp on top of it, and the deadline is very important, I would definitely look at options that are flatbed with tarp. We do a lot of flatbed work here at Bestway, and I know Conestogas are just the best. But if there is a tight deadline on it and tarps can go on it, just be mindful of that and just know that you're freeing up a ton of capacity and increasing your chances of picking up and delivering on time. Last thing to be mindful for on the flatbed side are out of gauge shipments. During the holidays, there's a lot of rules and regulations around over-dimensional freight, not moving at evenings, not moving on holidays, things like that. Just be mindful and plan accordingly if you have an oversized shipment during peak season or a holiday season. Hot shots. I bet you if I asked everyone on here, they would have a different definition of a hot shot. The most common is probably a flatbed hot shot, a 20, 30, or 40-foot flatbed trailer that hangs off of a Super Duty truck or something like that. Box trucks are also considered hot shots. So when you are asking for a hot shot, make sure you clarify exactly what you want, because that is a very ambiguous term. So if it needs to be enclosed, make sure you make note of that. If you're just looking for a flatbed hot shot, if your freight is 28 feet long, let them know that it's 28 feet long. Don't just ask for a 30-foot hot shot. 40-foot hot shot can handle that as well. The price difference between a 30 and 40 is next to nothing. And all you're doing is opening up capacity and increasing your chances of on-time performance. How to avoid problems, mitigation here. Again, prior to pickup, just touched on it. Know your dims and weight. There's multiple different types of sizes of hot shot trailers out there, both box truck and flatbed. So if we know exactly the size and weight of your freight, we can open up capacity to any and all options out there. So definitely get very specific on your needs, and again, just increase your chances of success. Independent contractors really make up a bulk of the hot shot space. So with that, again, setting up for tracking, truck breakdown plan, those things are going to be much more difficult. So knowing what your communication is going to be like when you're booking a hot shot is very important. If you're booking a hot shot, obviously it's important, and you're going to want some real-time answers. Dealing with independent contractors can present some problems on that front. But if you do all the right steps, prior to pickup, then you shouldn't have any issues. Little recap on the LTL and FTL. LTL alternatives, Sprinter van and air freight. FTL alternatives, hot shots and team services. Put down here, don't always have to move the goalpost. What I mean by that is just because something happens doesn't mean that you have to move a delivery time. Doesn't mean that you have to accept that this guy is just not answering his calls. If we take the proper steps prior to pickup and know what our options are in transit, as I put here, you can save a client relationship. You're not making your clients mad where you're ultimately delivering to. But we just got to make sure we're doing all the proper things, all the gentle reminders on LTL and FTL prior to pickup and in transit, especially during these crazy times. We all want to have a good Christmas and New Year's. Got a hypothetical here, and I want you guys to think about how you would go about getting a quote for this particular one. Kansas City to Miami, 1 pallet, standard size, 105 pounds. Client requests that it delivers by Monday afternoon based on getting this load sent to you today. The client requested it today. What are you going to do to source this? Give you 30 seconds to think about that, and then we'll look at the options that come back for this particular move. All right, that stigma around air freight being wildly expensive. LTL, looking at roughly $175. These are not exact numbers. 3-day estimated transit. Again, pickup and delivery days do not count. So you're looking at probably Tuesday delivery, maybe Monday, but really probably looking at a Tuesday or Wednesday. So you're going to spend the weekend crossing your fingers, hoping this thing makes it there. Air freight, for about $400, you can have next day delivery. This could be down in Miami tomorrow, waiting for delivery first thing Monday morning. For an extra $225, if that is a very important client and this is a can't miss delivery, then that looks like a pretty darn good option there. Sprinter van on this one, just because of the length of transit, does not make as much sense as an air shipment here. Looking at roughly $200 or $2,200 there. And then truckload Kansas City into Miami, especially this time of year, is just going to be wildly expensive trying to get somebody to go down there just because they don't have a ton coming back out. So a lot of LTL shippers out there. You just automatically go to LTL and maybe book a guaranteed LTL rate or something like that. But air, I would highly recommend reaching out and seeing what an air freight quote might come back at for something like this. Hypothetical number 2, Miami to Kansas City, 12 pallets, standard size, a little over 1,200 pounds. Client requests delivery by Monday based on today. What modes are you sourcing? This feels like a volume. Feels like a volume. A lot of people hoping that it gets there. As you can see here, the volume rate for something like that is roughly $1,200. Again, you're looking at estimated transit. Reminder, volume moves as capacity allows. It is the last thing to touch a LTL trailer. But if you look at a truckload rate going from Miami to Kansas City, again, a couple hundred extra bucks, dedicated transit, peace of mind. Just something to think about as you guys are going through the season. And every shipment's different. If there's something that you know is going to cause you problems, just look at your alternatives, would be my recommendation. Optimizing your freight strategy. This is a good filler slide for you guys as you go back through the presentation. Just to review it, we touched on it prior to pickup. Go through the proper protocols. In transit, know your options, and then know your alternatives to just the general LTL or truckload. How'd I do, Libby?
You did great.
Timing was okay?
Timing was perfect.
All right.
Before we get into some questions, I think we have a winner for your dad joke.
Oh, no. Somebody got it?
Yeah.
Who was it?
What was the joke that you repeated?
Why did the tomato turn red?
So Scott Marsh says, because it saw the salad dressing.
Oh,
Is that correct?
that is correct. I do not know Scott Marsh, but I'm going to guess that Scott Marsh has some kiddos.
I would say that's probably a safe bet. So Scott, you won a $10 gift card. I'll be in touch with you after the webinar, and we will make sure that you get that. Oh, David also says because it couldn't catch up with the others. That's a good one too. That's awesome. Nice work, guys.
Did not know there was an alternative answer, but I love that. That's a winner.
Yep, that's good. So going back to when you were talking about hot shots, Jack mentions that on the international side, he usually uses the term hot shot as a sprinter van for pickup at the airline, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, so the best way to think about hot shot is anytime somebody says hot shot, they usually mean expedited. So anytime you need something expedited, dedicated, that's how I would refer to hot shot. And then from there, you need to decide what you want. Sprinter van, box truck, 20-foot flatbed hot shot, 30-foot flatbed hot shot, whatever it may be. But definitely think of hot shots in terms of time sensitivity. But then there is another layer to that, and you really need to define what type of trailer you want showing up.
Yeah, that's good. Very interesting. Our next question comes from Luis Herrera. It says, is it realistic to expect a real-time tracking information from any random carrier you might hire?
Yes, absolutely. And it is, who asked that?
Luis Herrera.
Luis, absolutely. Especially with a shipment of urgency that you need, it is more than okay for you to demand real-time tracking. When we go to source drivers and trucks, there's a number of different ways that we are integrated with our carriers and in particular drivers. And when we go to schedule a driver, we can have our team have a note in there that says we are not allowed to book this truck unless Lewis has real-time tracking on this. So we want to tap into their ELDs and we want to have those updates coming to you how you want them. But yes, that is a very realistic expectation. And that is something that you just need to make apparent when booking the truck that this is necessary on this shipment.
Yeah, very good. So while we wait for some more questions to come in, I just want to remind everybody there is a $50 gift card on the line for the best question or peak season shipping story. So as those come in, Riley, do you have a peak season shipping story that you would want to share? I don't think you're eligible to win, but.
Oh, dang. Well, best question right now, I'm going to go Luis on that. That's a great question. That's just, again, just touching on that real quick, Luis, that is just having the right partner and managing expectations. And, you're the one buying the truck. And if that's what you need, then it's very doable and very realistic to expect that. Oh gosh, do I have a story? I have lots of stories. How long do we have? No, there was one time we had a truckload over Christmas and trucks were scarce, and we ended up sending in 4 different Sprinter vans to pick up the pieces individually. That was a great workaround. Another one, there was drayage issues in Chicago. There was a chassis shortage, and we sent drivers from Kansas City with their own private chassis and got in there and got stuff delivered. We've done lots of crazy stuff, but I'm sure these guys, as the shippers, have known and felt that pain, unfortunately, a time or two. And if you have something good, definitely throw it in there.
Looks like we have another question from Luis. Does it count sending a container to the wrong country?
Well, I would say that qualifies. Yeah, going to the wrong country. Yeah, I've had the wrong address before, but I haven't ended up in the wrong country. Yes, Luis is just taking home gift cards left and right.
Yeah.
By virtue of the only story on the thread.
True.
He is our current winner.
Sending a container to the wrong country, that is a wild one. I'm sure there's a great story there.
I saw Chris Woods was on this. That dude's got 9 million stories to add to this.
Yeah. Yes. We'll wait. We'll sit here and we'll wait for more stories. We do have a little bit of a lag on our end, so definitely want to give it a couple more minutes. Really appreciate everyone participating in the comments. Always good to hear from people outside in the real world moving freight every day.
This is fun.
Yeah,
I like this.
Good. We'll have to have you back.
Should we let the people see us?
We can.
Say hey.
One of those. Good morning.
There's C-Dub.
Unfortunately, it wasn't a rush issue. It was because someone mixed up Morocco with Lebanon.
Sorry, I should not laugh. That was my bad, Luis. That's just wild.
Yeah, we have another one from Andre. I've seen my clients sending cargo to the wrong country. Painful. We solved it easily, incorporating simple mandatory workflows. It's a good workaround.
Absolutely. Nice work.
This is great stuff.
Yeah, it's wild. The next 25 days, capacity and all these wild stories, and then January 1 hits, and all of a sudden you have all the capacity in the world, and everything's running smooth. So it's pretty crazy 30 days we're in for.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happens. Christopher Wood says, yes, wait, we are typing. All right, we'll give you some time here.
We are typing, so we're going to get multiple people.
That's what it sounds
Chris's
like.
Story.
Yeah.
Right. I'm really excited. We got some dads on the thread, and we're able to answer my dad joke. I have 4 kiddos, so literally 500 popsicle jokes. Just let me know if you need any.
Yes, Ryan makes a good point. We do have solutions to wild scenarios. The more crazy, the more fun. Do you agree with that?
The more fun part, maybe not always. Fun to talk about once we've solved the crazy story. But yeah, that's Ryan's jam. That's what he does, man. He takes crazy situations and makes them all right.
That's what we like to hear. Apologize, I got the name wrong. Yes, wait, we are typing. That was not from Chris Woods. That was from Chenoa. So it looks like we'll have lots of great stories here.
I love it. I like Andres's shipped to the wrong country, painful, but we solved it easily. That's awesome.
That's great.
Calm, cool, collected.
Yeah. That's what we want to hear. They solved your dad joke very quickly.
Yeah.
I think we got answers from almost immediately. All right, looks like we have a question. What markets will upcoming tariffs be affected most in? I knew we wouldn't get away without a tariff question.
Well, by virtue of that, who asked that question, I can refuse to answer if I would like to. That's a great question. The problem that I have with that question, and I'm not singling you out, Chris Woods, is assuming that these tariffs are for sure thing. We don't know that they're a for sure thing. Today, it is strictly a negotiating tactic. If they do go into effect, yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. Obviously, Mexico has been booming the last couple of years. I would imagine capacity freeing up a little bit, rates going down a little bit. But again, it's pretty tough to predict something that's going to happen that is currently just a tactic. So I would lock in some pricing while you can if you're doing a heavy amount of volume in from Canada or Mexico. Lock in your capacity, lock in your pricing, and then just monitor the situation. I would say it's a 50-50 chance either way, but locking in what you have and comfortable with and can manage your bottom line with, I would just recommend doing that between now and January 21st and just monitor the situation.
Yeah, to build off that, we do plan on having a Cargo Cafe topic around upcoming tariffs. We're just kind of waiting for some more concrete information to come out. But that is definitely something on everyone's minds, and we do plan to touch on that eventually. We have a story here from Andres. I remember flying cargo for the opening of a new Forever 21 stores in Latin America, 10 countries at once. Wow. LA to Miami by truck, and then Miami to LA TAM by air. Crazy operation, but it all happened smoothly except for a container getting retained by our lovely Colombian customs. Yes, customs are always tricky, but glad that everything went smoothly. That sounds like a huge project you had there.
Let's add Andreas to the Great Story Award.
Yes, awesome.
Multiple winners.
All right, question from Devin. Any market update pertaining to Air Ocean with the holiday season and the looming port strike on the 15th?
Ooh, that's a good question for our amazing international team. I really oversee the domestic operations. The looming port strike is definitely on our team's radar right now. Everything today is a prediction, and if we've learned anything over the last 4 years, I would say since COVID, is predictions have a 49% success rate. So anybody telling you what they think, just keep in mind that it is a prediction, and it's just an ever-changing market on a daily basis right now. Want to stay on top of it, but trying to forecast and plan around just a prediction is can run you into some problems.
In terms of education. To the chat, and I just want to again thank everybody for taking some time to hang out with us this morning.
It's very cold up in our front room, so Libby and I are in here.
Yes.
Battling the conditions.
Always. Oh, good. Jack jumped in to give a little bit more of an update for Devin's question. He says, the markets haven't moved yet. We're about 40 days away from that, and we have not seen ocean freight increases. Air freight remains high with peak season, and the threat of a port strike might keep them higher for a little bit longer than usual. Great answer from Jack. Stepping in and saving you.
That's what Jack does. I usually like to take Jack's answer and pawn them off as my own. It's kind of my thing. Kind of my thing.
Yes. Looks like we have in the last minute a couple other questions. Could you share your thoughts regarding rail freight versus road freight? That's a great one.
Yeah, that really just comes down to every particular shipper. We're dealing a lot with that out of Mexico right now, actually. A lot of people looking into rail freight. capacity there is pretty tight coming out of Mexico with the rail freight. Obviously, the supply chain and how quick you need stuff is wildly important. But yes, if you're moving a heavy volume anywhere cross country or in from Mexico or Canada, it's worth a look and just seeing if it fits within your current supply chain. And if it does, it's a fantastic option. It's not an option for everybody, but it's definitely worth a look. There was a weird year and a half there where actually truck rates, and they're still almost even, but truck rates were actually cheaper than rail rates. So like anybody moving rail it was just wild to me. But those times are passing by, and definitely looking into rail options. Just know what your transit times are, how it fits within your supply chain, but definitely worth a look now. I would not have said that a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Awesome. We have a story from Chinoa. It says, not me, but a guy I know had a truckload of shaving cream flip over and shut down Savannah, Georgia years ago. They were moving it for some reason and hit a bridge. One team drove off a mountain. Oh my goodness. He also had the driver running late with beer cups for the old Yankee Stadium and tried to deliver them an hour before opening day. I remember I laughed at the time, but when I think about it now, it was pretty bad. That's crazy.
That's a winner.
That is definitely
a lot going on.
Yeah.
Shaving cream, trucks driving off a mountain, and delivering beer cups opening day.
Wow.
That's a winner.
That's definitely a winner. We hear lots of crazy stories, but that's a good one for sure.
Love it.
And then anyone who has shared a great story today, I will be reaching out after the webinar to make sure you all get your goodies. Don't want to gyp anyone on that, because we've had some great stories and participation here today. All right, well, I think that wraps up our last couple of questions. Make sure we're not missing anybody. If for some reason we did miss your question, you can always reach out to any Bestway representative or just leave a comment on our LinkedIn page, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Again, thank you to Riley for presenting, and for everyone who participated. We really appreciate you, and keep your eye out for more upcoming cargo cafes. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a good holiday season.